Hi guys, welcome to today's episode. Today I sit down with Jasper Skule, the Scandinavian devil that he is. We talk all about his coaching and kind of his progression to getting where he is and his love for Olympic lifting. Jasper is one of the most meticulous coaches I've ever seen. He just kind of is ruthlessly consistent and very logical, which is completely the opposite to me. So this episode is a really great one, guys. Please enjoy. Follow me at Hat the Body, Hat the Mind. Follow Jasper at Jasper Skule 1, I want to say. That might actually be a complete lie. Hold on. Hold your horses. Wait there. Give me 2 seconds. We're getting there. Just Jasper Skule. Skule being Skule. So Jasper Skule on Instagram. If you want to get into Olympic lifting, there is no one better to do it than the man himself. Again, follow us if you can. Spotify actually lets you do reviews now. If you on YouTube like this, comment, all the social media stuff helps the algorithm. If you are on Spotify, please give us 5 stars. If you're on iTunes, give us 5 stars. If you're listening anywhere else, that's strange. Enjoy the episode, guys. It is me and Jasper Skule. We are Real Coaching Radio.
Welcome to Real Coaching Radio, the podcast for coaches by coaches. We are here to teach you how to get the most out of your clients and yourself. This is where beauty meets the beast, brains meet brawn, and science meets, well, bro science. Welcome to Real Coaching Radio.
Yes, man, a few words.
No, but I don't think it's a man of few words, because I think everything you say, you don't say anything without meaning it.
Yeah, which is not always a good thing, to be honest.
No, I know, but it's really interesting. The way you coach as well, you say things in a certain way, which is just so simple.
Yeah.
So broken down to we didn't even talk about coaching with Chris, but with you, it's you break things down, to the point of do this.
Yeah.
What, how, why, where does that come from?
Really from I spent, back it up a bit, did trampolining for 8 years. So I've been coached for a long time in a sport that's very technical.
Yeah.
So it does just come down to if there's 10 different things I'm thinking about when I'm doing a trampoline skill, I just want to be told what one thing my coach wants me to change or to think about. So kind of from that, and because there is so many things, even with simple movements like push-ups or something that people can think about, but they only really want one, because people can only focus on one thing at a time. If you're a pretty good athlete, you can focus on maybe 2 or 3, but it depends on what the movement is, depending on how much experience you've got with it. From there, really.
So when did you start trampolining then? Let's talk through your training career of how did you start getting into anything fitness wise? Was it sports? What was it like?
Yeah, sports. I wasn't a hyperactive child, but I was definitely, let's try something.
Yeah. And
either get hurt or break something. And then I learned from that.
Bring your mic down just a little bit, just a tiny, tiny bit. Perfect.
Okay. So I think off the top of my head, I started trampolining when I was year 4, which is
8.
Yeah, 8.
9.
Something like that, around that age. 8. Maybe even a bit younger, maybe
Did you
7.
do anything before that? Gymnastics or anything? Just
no,
straight into trampolining?
Yeah, all trampolining. I've done some gymnastics bits through being in trampoline clubs, but never gymnastics. I can't do any of the funky pommel horse spinning or anything like that.
Okay.
That's too different. So yeah, I started when I was let's call it 7 or 8. Went because my sister went, and we had a garden trampoline. So I was one of those kids that rocked up at a club and can I show you my front flip? And it was a front flip where you land flat on your ass and just yeet yourself over. Funny story. We used to live in South Africa when I was born, and we had these towel coat things. You put kids in a towel that's a jacket. And there's no zip. It's all one like a poncho sort of thing. And we've got somewhere this home video of me at the bottom of our garden literally probably like 2 years old, just jumping up and down. They're just left on the trampoline to jump, just like burn energy off, just get rid of it.
But South Africa's like a crazy place as well. So you like that doesn't surprise me. Just leave the kid in the outback, let him do what he needs
with the
to
monkeys
do.
and the snakes, whatever. Yeah.
How long did you live there? How long did you live in South Africa?
Only 4 years.
Then where did you move?
Straight back to England,
To England.
and then basically in the same little village since then.
Because where's your mum and dad from?
Mum's from up north, like Bolton. That's probably not up north for lots of people.
Mate, I don't know.
Yeah, who
It's
knows?
north
I
of
don't
here.
even. Yeah, exactly. I don't really know past, Bristol, what's north and what's not.
To me, Birmingham's north. It's
okay,
not.
yeah.
Apparently. So
No,
I
I
don't even
feel
know
the
where
same.
Bolton is.
And then my dad is technically Finnish, but a little bit of everything because he kind of grew up going to school in England.
Yeah.
While his mum lived in South Africa and his dad lived in Finland, so he was a bit all over the place. So like,
everywhere.
Yeah. We were only out in South Africa because we had family there, and my parents wanted a bit of a change when they were, kind of giving back a little bit, doing like doctor stuff in a less well-off country.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to trampolining. So I'd always done it as a kid. Went to a gym because my sister wanted to do it, and I just was like tagging along at that point as the younger brother. Really enjoyed it because it's just throw yourself around and try not to land your face too many times. And we did it for like a couple of years together, and then she sort of stopped doing it because we're just different. She didn't really want to conquer that fear part where you've got to like throw yourself upside down to do a somersault or something like that.
You didn't have that though.
Oh no, I used just do dumb stuff all the time.
Why? Like, not why is in like that's stupid, is in like, what do you think is that thing that just allows you to do that? Because I'm your sister. I'm the guy that's like, go down the skate ramp, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna die. Why don't you think you have that?
I think it's just like, as an adult now, it's definitely like try something because you may never know whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas like there's lots of stuff that I've done now as a kid that I won't go and do as an adult because I know that the risk of injury is too high or anything like that. So I think as a kid, it was just like,
never done it before.
It's like when they bring a plate over and they're like, don't touch it, it's hot. Still to this day as an adult, I touch the plate just because I'm like, how hot can it really be that you've put it down in front of me and it's not burning the table? So kind of just that, like I'm not like a reckless child.
No.
My parents might say different, but it was just fun.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you don't really have, well, some kids do, but as a kid, I didn't really have this like fear thing.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I had, we'll just keep vague on the trampoline track.
Yeah.
So I did it as a kid when I was like little until maybe year 8 or 9.
All right. Okay.
Then I went to boarding school.
Yeah.
And still played a little bit of sport, but by the time I got to like year 10, 11, everyone else is a regular size and I was still the same size. And like still enjoyed playing sport, and I was like fairly competitive internally. So wanted to beat people, but didn't because I was little. So that was probably like the biggest dip off in my like physical activity.
Okay.
Like 15, 16, started smoking at school because I thought that was cool.
Mate, it's always
thought I could hide it from my parents, and they'd always just like pick me up, and I'd obviously stink of smoke, thinking I was fine.
have a chewing gum and deodorant.
Yeah.
Stinking of cigarette smoke.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything, does it?
It's my mate. My mate smokes. It's not.
Oh
me.
yeah, I was just the knocks down smoking. Yeah. So, and then keep it the short story fairly short. That did that when I got to sort of 16, 17. I remember having this conversation with one of the kids, and he was like, I want to leave school and become an artist, like a playing guitar artist,
Okay.
like a musician. And I was like, why? I thought it was so dumb
Yeah.
being a logistician. But he was like, oh, it's just all I really enjoy doing. And that's like conversations really stuck with me. That's when I started to think that like I really enjoyed trampoline. It was the only thing I actually really enjoyed as a sport, partly because I was good at it and it wasn't a team game.
Yeah.
Because I'm all for team games, but it's annoying when other people let you down.
Yeah, no, but that's that's the thing that like, so for you then, like what, that conversation literally changed you to go like, I'm going to go back to do the thing I want to do.
Basically, yeah. So this was probably the beginning of sixth form. So what, 16, 17? I was young, so probably 16-ish.
16.
I remember like leaving school Friday night, because I went to boarding school, but I wasn't actually very far from home. It was just convenient to send me and my sister to boarding school.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to travel back every day during the week.
Yeah.
Because school was more like 8 till 6 when you played sport or whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember getting picked up Friday and going to my old club that I used to train at and just doing it once a week. And honestly, I think it must have been like 4 or 5 weeks getting back into it. Like I could almost do all the same skills I had before I left.
Amazing.
It's like riding a bike, if not more, because I was just a little bit heavier, so you get a bit more out of the trampoline. And I decided to leave boarding school, change schools, like a term into sixth form, go to like a random school I never been to, so I could do it 4 nights a week.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How did you deal with, so when I was, this is funny, this is going to show the difference between us. When I was 16, I left school, went and worked for my stepdad, and then they sent me to college in Bridgewater, which is a shithole. And I didn't know obviously anyone that was there. I was going to do this like electronics course down there. And the first day I went, I sat in the toilet and cried because I felt so lonely. How did you find going through school and then go to another one? Did you just like not even think about it?
No, not like, you know, we call myself a logistician, like fairly internally. I'm very like emotionally aware that like you're the new kid or whatever. Thankfully, one of the guys I was training with that I kind of got to know was at that school.
Amazing.
He was the year above. So like, I remember he like picked me up on my first day and went in. Honestly, it felt like such a,
it's
like
weird,
a child. Yeah.
It's such a weird thing that like being the new kid.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strange feeling, but that just dropped into the unknown of like
somewhere else.
And how I go deal with this.
And I thought our school was big and we had like 600 pupils across year 8 to 12. So that's not really that big of a school.
No.
The school I was going to was like 1,500.
Yeah, that's like my school.
And I remember like hanging out with him and some of his mates, and only till like halfway through the first week did I realize that all the people I was hanging out with weren't even in part of my year. And I was like, fucking hell, like, not that I've wasted time making friends, like it's good to make friends, but I still don't know really anyone in my year.
Yeah.
It was all right. Like at that point, school for me was just what you have to do. Okay. And I was just there for the trampolining. Like I remember I used to just like, also I'd gone from somewhere where you have to be at school. Somewhere I didn't turn up on a day, came back the next day. I think I was ill and just didn't say anything, just was ill. No one asked where I was. It was so weird. And that definitely then set me off on the sort of like,
I can get away with shit
I can
now.
just do whatever I want, no one cares, which is, you know, I learned a few valuable lessons, like basically failed the first year of AS, got like E's and U's.
Almost unheard of. Like, as in like, there was kids in my school who did that, but like, you could pretty much get it if you go to class. Do you know what I mean? Like you could get through your AS if you go to class.
Yeah, and to me, saying that, you know, I did like design technology and bits. I did some pretty hard A levels or AS levels, as we'll find out. Where I did design technology, economics, maths, and physics.
Oh, right. What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Why?
it's because I'm quite like logical. I was quite good at maths until it turns into all the letters bollocks. And I did physics because I was good at it at GCSEs. But I have no interest in it, so I didn't want to learn anymore. Whereas like design technology, it's like hands-on. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Economics, I have no idea. Looking back,
Why did you choose that?
So I did no sport stuff.
See, I haven't done any sports stuff.
So like fast forward again, like failed AS, maybe not as bad as I remember it, but like didn't do well enough to go to A level. So I had to resit that year.
You spent 2 years
doing AS. Yeah. Got to start of second year of that AS level and like changed. So I think I did maths again, design technology, and then biology. So a little bit more interesting, maybe sports stuff. But again, like halfway through the year, basically I was just like, had like what I call a kitchen floor meltdown. If you've seen Jack Whitehall's comedy sketch, he talks about like sobbing on the kitchen floor. And literally that was me. I remember driving home after failing second year again.
Again?
Yeah.
Which you failed it once?
Yeah.
Failed it again?
Yeah. But that was because I remember like doing a mock exam and just fucking off to the beach with friends to go do flips off these like exercise balls you bury in the sand.
Which is so you.
Yeah, totally. I remember I think I had another exam. I was like, well, we'll just go to the beach.
Okay.
Because like I was there because I thought that was the thing to do. Like my sister is very different. She's very like, intelligent. You know, she likes reading and all that.
Boring.
You know, yeah. Well, you said it, not me.
But
we are very different. Like we definitely like wind each other up because we are so different. But so she like set the precedent of A stars at GCSE, all A's and A stars at A level, like going to uni, that sort of thing. So like that was just in my house what was set out.
Yeah.
So I remember like failing this second year, like knowing I'd failed, but had to then tell my parents I'd failed again, and basically just had like this proper like meltdown, basically just being like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to do this. And like that's why my parents have always been really good, that they were just like, cool, do that. Like if you're gonna do that. And as long as you're in some form of education, as in you're trying to better yourself.
So you made the decision to do sports then?
Well, I made the decision to go and coach trampolining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was nothing to do with like
the gym.
Sport, the gym, nothing like that. Like
it was just trampolining.
Yeah. Did my level 1 with the club I was at. Started coaching like Saturday mornings with them. Did like a little bit of pub work, just because one of the guys who trained there is like parents worked at a pub, so they got me like a little gig there doing like 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing a huge amount, but just trying to figure out where I was going. So yeah, that kind of like led on to doing a little bit more coaching, actually like running sessions in other gyms and bits. I used to do like parties at a leisure centre for trampolining. Did my like level 2, which means you can like run a session by yourself. A bit like the PT course, like level 2, you're basically just a person there.
Yeah.
You have minimal responsibility. Level 3, you can actually do what you want within reason. And then moved to Bristol about 5 years ago now.
Why?
To do a circus course. So kind of like on the lines of like, what am I going to do if I want to do trampolining and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Was looking down the lines of like maybe going to Cirque du Soleil, that sort of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd want to do?
Not anymore.
What? Okay, but did you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because it's literally just like you take your acrobatic skills and you go do it on other stuff like teeterboarding and bits.
Yeah.
Which I'd like had a play on. Like I went up to Glasgow once for a weekend. Didn't know any, like just like went up there, jumped onto this like teeterboard, which is essentially an adult seesaw that's slightly flexible. And
on
you
your own.
Stand on it and you jump up and down with someone else.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you could do that?
Yeah, with a bit of practice. Because it's quite, like, it's similar and it's transferable.
That's mental.
Yeah, so I moved up to Bristol to do that, which is Circle Media, which is up in Fish Ponds.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, again, there were little bits of life lessons learned in there, but nothing necessarily related to fitness. But that's kind of what got me into Bristol, working full-time after that at the new trampoline club that's Axis.
Yeah.
That then again, like, fast forward a little bit, like I was training them properly, working in a gym, teaching gymnasts, that sort of thing. A little bit more kind of maybe attention to strength conditioning. And this whole time, like I was still kind of smoking on and off.
Yeah.
Whereas when I moved to Bristol and like met the new squad that I was going to be training with, they were all kind of took it fairly seriously and were all similar ages to me. Whereas when I was living in Dorset training, I was the oldest by like 4 or 5 years. So there was no one at my level to kind of be like, why are you being a knob and doing that?
Well, yeah, there's no one to guide yourself off of, is there?
Yeah. So training with those guys, I was cycling back and forth to Fish Ponds. I just couldn't smoke. It's like not something that's like I could handle and try and be fit and train like 20 hours a week or whatever.
The people, do you see the Japanese guy who ran a marathon chain smoking cigarettes? Recently, a Japanese guy ran a marathon chain. So you just needed to try harder, but
True, yeah. I'd love to know what his blood oxygen level was if he's running like that, basically breathing in all those chemicals.
So then you moved out to Bristol, train and Axis. How many years were you in Bristol before you came to Origin? Like, before you came trained? 4 years.
The only, I was, basically just fell into Origin.
Yeah, you did.
So like old school training used to be rounds on North Street, there's a workout Bristol.
Yeah.
Not workout Harbourside, and like what a shithole. In the sense, like one of the, a couple of weights rooms, a bit like this gym where it's a bit mishmash in terms of there's loads of little pockets of things in each room. But this one was like wonky floor upstairs where the weights were. So you'd like squat on a tilt. The big like basement gym downstairs wasn't high enough. You could press stuff overhead. So like, it would be all right for like general gym stuff, but you couldn't do like overhead press or something downstairs, and you just squat wonky upstairs or whatever. So.
And then next to that was Fort Ashton, which was where you went to do you just got into that to do Olympic lifting, or?
Yeah, well, I they used to have some sort of connection between Fort Ashton and Workout Bristol. And it took me ages to figure out where they were because they're not actually next to each other. They're like a road down. Yeah, no real obvious way of getting there. So it took me a while to find them. Once I found them, like that was probably where I first got into like strength and conditioning training.
What were you doing before then at the gym? Just bodybuilding? Just anything?
No, squatting and other bits, but just kind of anything and everything. I can't, we used to do like spin circuits every so often, and there is probably, if I spoke to the right people, like a structured plan for how to condition for trampolining. But at that time, I don't know, just you got to be fit and strong and good core and just trampoline. And
you can really knows,
kind of, yeah. Or I didn't know at that point anyway. So yeah, I went and did there, and like I think I did like a 6-week program or 8-week program with one of the guys there who was a PT and coach. And it was pretty good. Like I enjoyed it. I remember the only reason I like dropped off a little bit was probably because I didn't have the self-awareness / foresight to see that it takes time to get strong. I didn't see the results I wanted quick enough, and potentially, we talk a lot about like GPP when we're sat around at Origin, and how everyone, from like triathletes and basically any sport could do with this base level of strength. And there's this like almost like body dysmorphia within trampoline that you need to be skinny and light, small upper body, so that your power comes from your legs. You're not like top heavy. So I remember as being programmed like pull ups and bench press, and I used to hate those sessions because
psychologically,
a little bit, yeah. I was just worried about getting too big and getting too tight because I always used to have tight shoulders. But realistically, that's the thing, because I used to have weak shoulders that weren't strong enough to counteract the tightness in my lats from like hanging a lot potentially. Because now my shoulder flexibility is pretty good and my shoulders are stronger than
I'm bigger and
they were. So did that sort of training, and like there were 2 other coaches there that did a little bit of Olympic lifting. I was never brave enough to ask to swap between coaches because I thought it was always a little bit awkward that I was doing like strength conditioning stuff, and swap to like more Olympic lifting. But but the other 2 were pretty friendly, so I used to just chat and do some Olympic lifting there. And then, this kind of shows how like erratic my training was. So like I got, fairly strong being light, like 65 kilos did like 120 for 5 for deadlift and 90 kilo back squat for 5. So, it's not strong, but it was stronger than I'd ever been.
Stronger than Chris. 59 kilos.
Yeah. It's heavier than him. Definitely not stronger. But then like I just kind of got not bored of it, but I think because I didn't realize that it takes time, and potentially, wasn't told that this is like a 6-month process to get to anywhere further. I started running again, bit of cycling. So like I was always doing this maybe like 1.5 year of weights, year and a half of running. Cause like fast forward to like lockdown bits,
Jesus, I forget
I was
there as well.
I was back down to like 65 kilos running, cycling. Like never did any proper races, but like I was quick. Like I could quite comfortably run a 40-minute 10K.
That's really quick, man.
Yeah.
So when you came to Origin there, were you that light?
Yeah.
65 kilos?
Pretty much. I've got some, maybe back to like 70, because I kind of stopped running. I did a little bit of stuff at Snap Fitness.
Yeah.
Before.
Did you buy a bar? Because you bought a bar for lockdown. Was that the first one or the second one? Third one?
The third lockdown.
Third lockdown. Right, okay. So many lockdowns.
Yeah, so first lockdown was like the running cycling one, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Then we had like a little break, which I think...
That was the Christmas. That was the 1 month Christmas break, wasn't it?
That was the third one.
Was that the third one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm so lost.
Because I think I remember going for a date with Danny, down by Three Brothers, in between the first, second one, I think.
Yeah.
Or the second and third one.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, I can't remember. And walked past him and was like, oh my God, there's a workout Harbourside. I was training to work out. Let's go and have a look. Just like have a wander, see what it's like. Found Origin, like this is sweet. And close. So then came and trained, because I was training there from like September, October, November, December, so maybe like 3 or 4 months, maybe just 3 months. And then that third lockdown kicked in, and I remember asking, I don't know if I asked, I'm pretty sure I did, if I could take some weights home from the gym, and like rent them off them. And like, obviously,
you did,
I think I did, because I remember either Mark or Kate being like, oh, probably because they didn't know me.
Yeah.
reluctantly being like, well, we don't technically own it yet because like they've obviously bought it fairly early on.
Mate, you would be like heads and feet, just dumbbells and barbells all over you.
Yeah, exactly. So, understandable. Like you've only been there 3 months. That
we don't know you.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm asking to take some kit home. Hopefully he brings it back. But then I basically remember was like, fuck this. Like I was enjoying strength training. Like I was in somewhere that, I remember having a conversation with you and Mark about the fact I used to do 60,000 warm-up sets on the way up to working sets, and no wonder I get tired. I used to
that was like an early conversation, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I used to
things like that's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, because it just shows you, doesn't it? It just shows you like how the journey. Like I think for me, I forget the journey we've all been on.
Yeah.
Like since doing this job, it feels like I've just lived the same day over and over again. I've come in, I've trained a few people, I've ate out of a Tupperware every single day, multiple times a day, trying to eat a paddy field full of rice. And then it gets to this stage when you talk back about it, and it's like, I remember having that conversation. You can try this. How long after that? Like, when did you first start working here?
So before the December lockdown, I did a weightlifting level 1, which I remember kind of talking to Headers and Mark and that lot about which one to do, and they recommended this one. It was like, I remember our tutor being like, "Oh, you guys are pretty lucky because this is like the last in-person one we're going to do for a while because of another lockdown or whatever." So did that, like the practical day and the online bit, and we had to then, maybe it was an online, yeah, so I don't even think there was like an assessment. You just had to send back like the fact that you could write a basic program or whatever. So I bought a barbell and plates. I remember it was almost like a Black Friday sale. As soon as the third lockdown kicked in, everyone was like, we want to keep training, so I bought weights. I remember like I had bar, plates and weights in my basket, and the rack got sold, so I didn't have a rack. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy the bar and plates and I'll find a rack somewhere else, which I managed to. So I did that training through in December, and then came back feeling pretty good about my weightlifting. Awful back then in comparison to now, but was like, I feel like I can teach weightlifting, but I have no idea how you teach weightlifting. In the sense of like, I can look at myself and make changes in like my housemate kind of, or technically it wasn't my housemate then, but we were doing like a sneaky, like he lived with one person, I lived with one person, so we just made like a little unofficial bubble. And so me and him were lifting like every day and doing like ice baths and just like full training camp for a month or whatever.
That's so cool. But that's like, that just shows you how into it you were. Like, I think during that period of time, like training and stuff like that, like the people that wanted to train were buying gym equipment. Do you know what I mean? Like people in lockdown who were like, right, I've had enough of this. Like I want to keep training. I'm going to do that. Do you think that your coaching for trampolining, is that carried over at all to this?
Oh, 100%. Like I think considering how different Olympic weightlifting and trampolining are, they are essentially the same sport in terms of like, you're going to get similar like processing problems because, when you do a back somersault on a trampoline, there's umpteen million things to do to make that skill work and be the same each time. Same thing when you do a snatch at like max weight or whatever. Like you've got to hit all these, positions, like timing, like bar path. You've got to hit the bar hard but be fast and all these different things. That if you've never done something that requires like a large amount of processing power, sounds like a computer.
No. But you are thinking of a million things. There's a million components that are going into it.
Yeah, and that was, we were talking about things I wanted to talk about, and I was like, I don't really know. I had this in the back of my mind that I find it really interesting coaching weightlifting to see how people perceive information, because I think the reason I picked it up so quick is that you can ask me to do 3 different things, and I can pretty much, within maybe 3 attempts, have done all those 3 things. Maybe like I get 2 on the first one, then 3 on the second one, then all 3 are done nicely on the third attempt, just because of years of like learning good like body awareness, that sort of thing from other skills. Again. And I think, the boring side to weightlifting is once you've learned the movements and the, the complexes and all the variations, it is just how many times you're going to do it until it's perfect and you can go heavier.
That's the interesting bit, because people say that all the time. Like, why? Like, I've asked you about it. You say the same thing about bodybuilding style training. Like, we have these things where you're like, God, that would be boring to me. but the art and the enjoyment comes from the mastery of the one thing. So for you to be able to just go, I'm going to look through my phone at the 1,000 videos of the same snatch and tell you why every single one's different and what I'm going to do to improve it. And like, that to me is just like, okay, Rain Man, I'm going to go and just do some bicep curls in the corner.
Sculpt my body for this infinite image that I'm trying to constantly chase, that sort of thing. Yeah.
But it's just like, it's so interesting because like, weightlifting to some people is, weightlifting is so technical, and weightlifting is probably the peak of the amount of things that go into lifting when it comes to like, there are however many different positions, there are how many different things that could go wrong. Like the more you take a movement and the more there is to move, i.e. you've got to put a bar from the floor over your head, the amount of joints that are involved, the amount of coordination that's involved, the amount of body awareness and positioning that's involved is more than any other lift in the gym. Like, for me, that's just like, nah. For you, it's like, yes.
Yeah, and it's exciting to watch. It's exciting to coach personally. Like, don't get me wrong, I love coaching simple skills just as much I enjoy coaching like the complex skills.
Yeah.
But like, and again, I'll coach anything because it's much more, it's equally exciting watching someone hit a PR snatch or PR clean and jerk as it is watching, someone that's just come in really get the feel for like deadlifting for the first time. They really feel like they get the hang of it, and you kind of see that over like 2-3 weeks of them come in, they're like, I really understand deadlifting now. So it's the same, like, it's just that, achievement sense for that person.
Yeah.
Personally, for me training, I enjoy having to think about lots of different things.
Keeps you engaged.
Yeah, it keeps me
interested.
engaged. Because there's always something different to
So is that
train, try, play with.
Is that what pulled you to weightlifting? Like, what was the thing that pulled you to, like, because I know you say the carryover between like trampolining and weightlifting is massive in the sense of, you're right, like you have to get positions right, you have to nail everything for you to get to the final point. And it's like, but what was the thing that pushed you to weightlifting or pulled you to weightlifting?
I think it is that it's just more complex than, Chris is going to hate me for saying this, like with the compound movements of like squat and deadlift. Good. Like, it isn't simple. There's so much to go into it. And like, since, we've been training more together, like he's changed quite a lot of how I lift, and I've not really noticed it that, like add 5 kilos without even realizing, because he's just like, oh, stay tight here and stop doing that. Stuff that
for you.
Yeah, in like my compound lift.
Yeah.
I've kind of lost my train of thought then.
No, but like how they're it's way more complex. So is that the thing that pulled you to weightlifting?
That's where it's going. Is I'm not necessarily naturally strong, whereas like doing Olympic weightlifting, you can always add a couple of kilos through improvement of technique.
Yeah.
In the same session. Do you know what I mean? I could tweak something about how I'm like positioning myself under the bar and the way the bar's moving, and suddenly add 3 kilos because I'm hitting it really well or anything like that. Whereas, when you get to, not that I'm an elite weightlifter, but elite like strength athlete, you're looking at 5 kilos on your squat or deadlift every 6 months if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much longer, and I've got a long way to go before I would class myself as strong in my own eyes.
Yeah.
But that's a long game to play. Whereas the Olympic lifts, you can do a hang power triple PB, and then the next week do a snatch triple PB, and there's like all different kind of ways of like getting that gratification of you're progressing, your technique's getting better, and you're lifting a little bit more weight each time.
That's so true, actually, because like I suppose all the accessories that go into weightlifting, like either coming from the hang, the power, like, or just doing different pull sections, like you can actually, it's not just, it is one movement, but it's not, is it? Like a snatch is not just one movement. The snatch has however many different components within it, and you can get those wins from those different points. And like, do you think that's what people miss about it? Because like, until you said that, then I didn't really think about like why it would be interesting. But the fact that you can each week go, well, I'm going to try. So like last week we were working on like my hang snatch. So I was going to improve my hang snatch by doing these things. great, that's a win in that session. The next week I'm going to improve my full snatch. We're doing these things. Like each week you're getting a win, whereas I look at it and go, I got a snatch again. It's the same movement. Like, whereas for you it's like, actually there's 7 different things that I could do and I get a win from all of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is so interesting. Like, do you think people overlook that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, and that trans is the same thing, maybe not quite as much for people when they go to the gym and do, I'm going to say regular movements.
Yeah.
Like any kind of
elitist when it comes to, if you're not snatching and clean and jerking, then
muggles.
You don't exist.
Yeah. No,
Bloods.
not at all. And it is harder to find those wins when you're doing like step back lunges or deadlift or bench press. But it's also like you can go in and hit the same weight and it feel really good or move really fast or it looks really good. And I think it's just, you've just got to change your perception of how you're finding those little PBs and wins everywhere when it's not as obvious a technical change or such a drastic movement change. You can do a back squat, you can do a box squat and it's a similar movement. People don't tend to vary it like that because...
Or even think of it like that. Like,
yeah.
Do you think that would help keep people like interested if they actually change their perspective on what is a win in the gym?
Yeah, probably, yeah. And so, people don't know this, but we're doing a lot of like conjugate training at the moment, and we're like each week we've got a heavy session, a fast session.
You're hitting PBs left, right and center.
Yeah, because every week it's something different. It's front squat 6, back squat 4.
Yeah.
And the idea is to go heavy for that session. So it is very easy to vary what we're doing
and still get the success and the wins
and get a
from
feeling that you've gone and you've worked as hard as possible for that session. Great.
Because that's I love the psychology aspect of training more than I love the training, in the sense of like, I really want to find things that keep people interested in training.
Yeah.
The fact you've said that has just opened my mind to the way I program in keeping people consistent. Because for me it was like, I want to, like, people need to learn the movement, so we're going to do the movement for 4 weeks, and then because you'll get bored by that time, we're going to change it. Whereas just like, actually we can change it every 2 weeks, so we can change it every week, and you can be still aiming for like this amount of reps. Do you this amount, this adaptation, trying to gain this strength, but we're just changing, well, this week is a front squat of 3, next week it's going to be 6 rep back squat or whatever it is. Do you think like you need to be some level of advance to get benefits from that type of training? Or do you think that like anyone who comes in can actually get benefits from like, well, just sending it each week?
Essentially, you could put a cap on it in some sense that you either do 6 reps, which is hard to go too heavy on.
Yeah.
It's not like a 3 rep max.
Yeah. Or
you could cap them that they can do up to 90% for 6 reps. Which no one's going to do 90% for 6 reps unless it's not 90%.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the person. Like, going back to when I was training in our little basement during lockdown, I would quite happily do like 10 sets of 3 back squat or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I can see the long term, like, if I do all these squats, it's going to pay off. Maybe not entirely correct, but that was my mindset when I was doing those training.
But that's a lot of like Olympic lifting style of programming, is a lot of volume, isn't it?
But the guy I was training with was like, I'm so bored after 3 sets. It's just not interesting. So I think it depends on the person.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of coming back to when we're talking about those achievements and how it'll keep people motivated is I love filming my lifts to watch it. I also love filming other people's lifts. Obviously when I'm coaching them and it's appropriate, not just randomers in the gym, to show them that, you can come in and feel tired and you do a back squat and it feels like dog shit and it feels slow.
Yeah.
And you watch it back and it's just a back squat. It looks normal speed, or it may be like way faster than it felt. So you can feel bad, still get the work done, and it actually look better than you think it does.
Yeah.
I think that definitely also impacts the way I coach people. Partly because when I was training trampoline lots, like, we were all pretty self-critical because you need to be.
Yeah.
So our coach is always like, no, it's good. In the correct way that, praise the positives, because there's always something to change. Hence, like, you give people a shit sandwich where it's like a positive thing, something to change, and a positive thing, because you can tear everyone apart about what they do, but no one's going to feel good about that.
So that's, and then, so that's, I think that's part of I look at form as in like there's perfect, there's good, and there's bad. Like you're doing well. I'm not going to change everything under the sun right now because like it's going to just throw you off of like wanting to actually do the thing. And it's like, I think that's so true in the sense of like you can rip people apart, and like I see coaches either don't do it enough or do it way too much.
Yeah. And I think that does depend on the athlete. Like, you know, I'll be PTing someone for weightlifting or something and have a good relationship with them, and the others will hear me be like, oh yeah, not bad. Yeah. Because it does depend on the athlete, and I feel like I would rather people know that when I say that was good, it's because it was actually good, rather than be always praising someone for something that might not feel good for them, might not look great. So when you go to watch it back, it doesn't necessarily line up with what you're saying. Whereas like when they do something good, it will either look perfect or it will feel great, or you might get both, which is even better.
Yeah.
So then you really do reinforce like, you know, that snatch, power snatch, whatever, technically looks perfect. It might feel a bit weird, but whatever you did, do that again. Or they feel
and they know then as well that you're being genuine and honest with them.
Yeah, rather than watching someone do a power snatch, but amazing, because you're praising the effort they're putting in, which is also, you know, worth praising.
And I suppose that's at different stages of their game. Like, would you have the same approach for a brand new beginner? Like, because I've seen you coach, I know, like when I watch you walk around in a weightlifting class, you'll speak to people differently.
Yeah, 100%.
And like when there's someone brand new and they never lifted a barbell, you're like, mate, keep doing that. Yeah. Even though you know that is not the best.
No, yeah.
But like then you'll go up to someone like Anne-Marie and be like, yeah, you need to do that again and you need to change this.
Yeah.
And then when she gets it, it's like, well done. Because it's I suppose it is just that change of like, this person's now shown up enough. They're actually turning up and showing up each time. They want to get better. You're going to actually deliver that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also not trying to keep people like at a constant level in terms of like emotional stability. I don't even know what I mean by that, but you know, let's say someone does a snatch like that feels amazing. I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good or it looks great, but there are things to improve. So rather than letting them get running away with this is underdog's bollocks, this is the best, I don't need to make change.
Yeah.
Not to like humble them, not at all like that. Just to make sure that, and I don't actually do that very often, it tends to be the other way around where it's like the newbies that will come into class, you know, you get so much information in one class when you try and teach someone to snatch from basic, they'll be like, oh, this is awful, or I'm not doing very well, kind of joking around. And I'm like, well, you know, I'll be honest, like, yeah, you know, it's not perfect. Yeah. But you've got 6 different things to think about and you're doing great. Like it's going from the floor to overhead.
But I think that's the thing that like, which is what I like Mark talks about this, Kate talks about it, we all talk about this, like this team that we've got down here at Origin is like such a unbelievably passionate, thoughtful team that it's, to me, it's amazing that you have this basis of like you can just see in front of you, this person needs a bit more praise, this person actually needs to remember that there is a challenge here and that they haven't conquered that yet. There's still something to improve, that they can still keep showing up. And it's like, I just find it amazing. I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
These are the 2 questions I'm supposed to ask Chris. I'm going to ask him another day. And I just want to know, because I think this would be quite interesting if anyone who is a coach is watching and anyone who has a coach or is looking for a coach is watching. But for you, what is your coaching philosophy? Yeah, have that.
Wow, really just surprised me with that one. This kind of sits, I'm going to talk a little bit to give me a little bit of time to think.
Yeah, cool.
Kind of sits with what I do as beyond weightlifting in quotations. You can't see me do that on a podcast. That whatever I'm coaching someone, whether it's gymnastics, like trampolining, weightlifting, whatever like that, the goal is to get them better at something, whatever they've come in to get better at. But also it's to give them that sense of achievement and enjoyment, because for most people, the goal is not to go to the Olympics, whatever they're doing, or to be the best in the world at it. It is to enjoy it and come back and make like life changes, whether it's, you know, to get fitter, to get stronger, better body composition. So I wouldn't say I've got like a definitive
You don't have
thing.
one liner of
No.
But
like that's the whole reason it was like my like PT brand is called Beyond Weightlifting, that it's like, you know, I enjoy teaching weightlifting, but it's not necessarily about the weightlifting. It's like the building confidence to get people to drop under a heavy barbell and like everything around the training.
It's not the training, it's what the training provides.
Yeah, because so many people are like too much negative talk, and that's why they can't weightlift. You know, they get in their own head, and that will come into so many other aspects of their life.
100%. What, the next question, what do you think is the most important part or thing about being a coach? So what do you think is the most important part or thing about being a coach, in the sense of what do you think is most important, or what do you think is important when you are a coach? What do you think is the most important thing?
I reckon it's the most important thing is like experience. Like from having done some of the stuff with Mark on the MyPT bits, is you get people come on the course and they think they know everything, they think they know how to coach because they've lived in a gym for the last 6 years, which gives them loads of training experience. But like working with people, you know, so many different people, like, you know, people think we're weird.
Yeah.
Like we'll think other people are weird, that everyone's different, that it is how you can interact with someone and coach them in a way that they learn best. And I think the other thing, like, to improve your coaching, I can't remember exactly what your question was, is to never be kind of satisfied with what you know. Like, I'm sure there are coaches out there, but we're talking like elite level coaches.
Yeah.
A bit like, you know, the Trained by JP guy that we talk about.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's like, he knows his stuff. He's done it for years. He's coached like thousands of people. Or the guy that you showed me was coaching Drake, whoever that is. You know,
Yeah, Mike Van Wyck.
fairly legit, or very legit. I don't know who it is, but yeah. That, you know,
He got titles in his head, mate. He's legit. I don't care.
You know, unless you've been coaching for like 15, 20 years, you know, I'm on 1.5 years of coaching PT stuff.
Yeah.
Longer for trampolining, but that's not necessarily the same. That there's always more to learn. You know, we're finding this, that just by having this good team, everyone brings something new to the table. They're all like, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think some PTs or coaches will have that. They'll be the only one in their gym, or there'll be two of them that think they know everything and they never go outside their bubble to learn more.
No, and I think that's part of what I personally think this is what we're aiming to create down here. Is just an environment where coaches, both us who are coaches here, but also train other people, can create an environment which everyone can learn.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much.
No
thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thank you for listening. You'll be hearing more of Jasper, same as you'll be hearing more of Chris. Hopefully not as much as you did in the last one, but you'll be definitely hearing more of both of those two. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you on the next one. Thank you so much, team, for tuning into that one. Jasper's a really interesting character. I think one of the most interesting things he said there was like, when he actually gives praise to people, he does it kind of sparingly so they know they've actually done something right. Whereas I'm the opposite. I'm just like, well done. This is great. You're good. Because I want to kind of keep them engaged, which is just so interesting that the two different coaching styles will work really well for different people. I think give him a follow if you want to get into Olympic lifting. He's great at this type of stuff. You're going to be seeing more of Jasper. So Jasper's going to be coming on the podcast as a host. He's going to start to take over a lot of our episodes, just to give you guys a different feel of what it feels like to like have different people talking about similar subjects or kind of slightly different subjects. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have been Real Coaching Radio.